Welcome to another Synth Hour. This is the special Heatwave edition. Um, Tonight we have the privilege of welcoming Midera, also known as Michael Raleigh, on the show. He is a electronic musician, a composer, and he also has kind of a guitar instrumental project as well. Um, and he's located in the Midwest, as I recall. Was it Minnesota?
Yeah, located in yep,
Mi-
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, Minnesota. So, Michael, welcome to the show. It's
Thanks for having me.
nice to finally speak to you. I've been following your work for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah,
And
I've been following your work as well. Never seen you before, so good
and
to good to
as
finally
I
meet.
recall, uh, I said something like one of your tracks reminded me of Boards of Canada, and you didn't seem too happy about that. and
Oh, really?
and we
I
got
don't
along
remember
great from
that.
there.
I feel like a lot of my stuff kind of fits that genre. I don't know. Now I want to look back and see what I said. It could have been one of my bad moods or something. That
Yeah, no,
happens too.
I figured, if somebody said I was sounded like somebody else all the time, and I put a lot of time and effort to what I was doing, and I wanted to have my own sound, I, I might I might not appreciate those comments on some
Uh,
days.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they're one of the influences I have. It's them, Aphex Twin, and
Okay,
Square
yeah.
Pusher. Those are probably the three biggest electronic artists that I've followed. Otherwise, I actually don't listen to electronic music.
I know exactly how you feel. I don't listen to a lot of it other than people I know personally anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I actually listen to a lot of artists on YouTube. That's like my favorite place to find people writing music and stuff that I like. And I don't know, I'm just interested in their performances and what they're doing. And people do some just excellent stuff. And I don't know, it's just kind of a fun way for me to find artists.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just start as early as you want to start with we'll just talk about your music background, your journey, whether that begins in a kitchen with pots and pans or in band camp
Oh,
or wherever you want to
yeah,
go. And hopefully we'll dig
yeah.
up something embarrassing along the way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's lots of embarrassing things. Thankfully, most of them don't revolve around my music. Um, so like, yeah, I think with music, a lot of my experience started out with our family having this just terrible upright piano, that was never in tune. And
We had one of those too.
yeah, I wish I could think of the brand. My mom had to move out of her house and it's gone. We don't have it anymore, but that thing was like, we even had a tuner come in and it was still out of tune when they were done. And it just old. And we had one of those and I used to just play it and, I'd just find all the notes I thought sounded good together. That's like, since I was five, just hitting a bunch of notes going, okay, does this sound good? And, that was kind of like the start of what I would do. And basically, I haven't learned anything else since then. Um, I do the same exact thing as I did when I was five. And that's really how I come up with songs. People are like, well, how did you come up with that? And it was like, I just did a bunch of random notes in a particular order and I thought it sounded good. And so that's kind of how I started and clearly have continued. We also had a guitar, an acoustic guitar that was equally never in tune. It hurt to put your fingers on the strings because they were just junk. And I don't know, do you play guitar?
I did a bit, and
Mm.
I learned quickly your fingers have to adapt, and then you have to keep with it. Otherwise, it's just excruciating.
Yeah,
At
I
least
don't
with
play that often
the cheap
anymore.
one that I had was that way.
Yeah, I don't play that often anymore to like I don't know if the calluses are just still there and they'll never go away, or if they I mean, I don't notice. I don't, even if I haven't played for a year, it just, it doesn't seem to hurt when I go back.
That's
But
good.
I used to just pull that out of the closet and just strum it, just make a bunch of noise. And actually, that kind of like starts where I really got into music. Was in sixth grade. I had a really close friend. We had a snow day. When we were growing up, and snow days were the best. We would spend every day watching every snow day, watching movies like Tombstone. Anything that was rated R, and we were too young for it, and our
Yeah.
parents wouldn't have wanted us watching it. That's what we were watching, my brother and I. Um, and we had a friend come over on this particular day, and we had watched. I think we had finished Tombstone, and I was just strumming the guitar, and then my friend came over, and he was like, "Hey, let me show you how to play uh, "Come as You Are" by Nirvana."
Oh,
And
nice.
and of course, I actually at the time I was listening to Ace of Base, so like I was listening to just that Madonna and other things and Michael Jackson that my parents listened to.
Yep.
And so I had never
Yep.
heard of Nirvana. I had no idea who they were. I think maybe by that point, I think maybe I had started listening to Weezer, The Offspring,
Hmm.
and Green Day. So that would have been like 90, 95. So
I'm
yeah,
surprised you listened to those three, but you'd never been exposed to Nirvana.
I don't know how that happened. I
Yeah.
have no idea. Yeah, I hadn't heard of any of like the grunge
Yeah.
era stuff. I started listening to those things later. So like, uh, who was it? Pearl Jam being one of like my favorites. Pearl Jam, I actually like
Yeah.
them still. I kind of don't even listen to Nirvana. But so, like on that snow day, he just showed it to me, and I picked up the guitar and just played it. Like it didn't take any effort to play it, and
Wow.
and
Okay.
I just played it over and over and over. And then I got into all these other, silly bands. I mean, good bands. I don't want to like say anything bad, but like I start playing Collective Soul and stuff like that. It was just that was the music I was into. And then only later, so I started playing guitar, and I played that acoustic guitar, and eventually, I think the next year, she bought me an electric guitar, which is not up there. In fact, it's on the ground in the other room, pulled apart because it looked like a Van Halen guitar, if you know what those look like. They're red with like the white stripes everywhere.
Okay.
I thought it was
Okay.
real ugly, but she got it at a pawn shop. We didn't have like much money at all, and she had no idea how she was gonna afford a guitar, an electric guitar. And she brought it home and got it for me for Christmas. And I remember opening it up and just I was just awestruck that I got an
You're
electric
like
guitar.
Nintendo 64 kid, but with a guitar instead.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I had those things too, but yeah. So she got that for me, and then I was like, "Well, where's the amp?" And she was like, "What?" And so like you couldn't even hear it. I was just sitting there like, well, it's still really cool. And she actually ended up getting me an amp, like a little amp that was like this big from
Yeah.
Radio Shack. It was from Radio Shack. Sorry, recovering from a cold, not COVID. And so she got me that, and then I started playing, and eventually I got into like a band, but that none of that stuff worked out. And then I started writing my own rock music. Actually, I'd been writing a lot of my own rock music. So when I was probably in about 10th grade, I started buying I bought an 8-track recorder that it was a Roland VS 840, I think, or something. I actually have it back
So this
there.
was digital.
Yeah, it was digital. I almost want to pull it out, but like I don't know if you
If
want me
you
to
can reach
walk
it,
off
you're
screen.
welcome to pull it out.
Give
If
me
it's not buried too
give
deep.
it's not Yep, it's not buried too deep. No, actually you can keep hearing me as I work to pull it out, but I'll show you. I'm sure it's unconventional, but it's here.
Yeah. So I'm curious. What was that new or used when you got it, and what year was that?
It was new.
Okay.
So that would have been 90, I don't know when these came out, 99, 98. So this little buddy has been, so it's the VS 840GX.
Looks like it's in great shape at
Yeah,
this resolution.
at this resolution, it is in great shape. It looks disgusting otherwise. But yeah, this thing, you know, it was kind of terrible. But I learned how to use it, and actually I still have like a lot of music I need to transfer over. So, you know, I use this to start recording like my guitar. I actually had like an old Fostex or something before then, and it was junk. It was like a 4-track to tape, and I'm sure right now it's probably worth like $500. Whereas
Yeah.
this thing, I guarantee you, is worth $20. Um, which is kind of a shame. It was really nice, and that helped me start writing stuff because it was so cool to like write something and then write something on top of that, and then on top of that, and on top of that, and
So
then
you
I
were
was like, oh,
multi-tracking yourself with what instruments at that time?
yeah, guitar, and I bought a drum set, and I think I might have bought a bass guitar, and then I would like sing too on top of that. So like I have music from, see, none of it's online, none of my rock music, because I don't know, maybe I'm kind of embarrassed about it. And a lot of it's like my voice wasn't very good. It's still not very good. I don't particularly like, I like my singing voice more than I like my talking voice. So I'd probably never want to watch this podcast. Sorry, no offense. Just wouldn't want to see myself talking. Uh,
I know exactly how you feel.
yeah, I cannot stand my voice, but my singing voice is the voice I hear in my head,
Yeah.
or maybe I'm able to like make it sound that way, but the voice I hear when I talk is just, I can't stand that guy. So you know, I made a bunch of stuff, and I actually like, a lot of the music was like sounded like Tool, so I was kind of
Okay.
like replicating
Was
their
that where
sound.
you were going for as a main
Yeah, so
inspiration?
that was my big inspiration, was them and Alice in Chains. They were
Okay.
both like definitely the biggest bands that I was like into in high school, and actually into college. Those were still like the biggest bands. So I was really like kind of emulating that with my rock music. And then after college, and at that point I bought an electric drum set because it was way easier to record drums and not have to deal with microphones, and they were smaller. And now I still I actually bought like a small drum set, so I still have one, and I've used it in some of my music, um, but I'll get there. So in college, yeah, I was listening to a lot of like Tool, Alice in Chains, and I think somewhere in there I started hearing some electronic music that I really liked. And after college, that's kind of when I started. Oh yeah, so in college I was using sadly like a free version of Fruity Loops, and was I don't know why I've never committed to what is, it's now FL Studio. It seems
Yeah.
like such a good idea, but it looks like it has so much stuff that it's just, I don't, back then it was awesome. I was sitting there and I could like, oh man, I can actually put drum beats in. I think, I don't know. I might have like 1 or 2 tracks like actually on some of my albums that are online, my electronic stuff, but I don't know. I'm not sure I ever actually like published that stuff. Um, but that's when I started writing electronic music, I guess. Would have been my junior year of college when I started like futzing around with that stuff. And then I got GarageBand when I got my first Mac Mini.
Yep.
You know, it was the first Mac Mini. And
Yeah, I think I may have done the same thing. 2005, 2006, right around there.
yeah, yep. Yeah, I bought that. I actually got into like, I was gonna like start doing like making my own films and making my own music to them. And so I bought like this $1,500 camcorder that again is worth like $60 now.
Yeah.
But back then they didn't have DSLRs. You couldn't, well, maybe they did by that point. I think they might have had like, actually I don't remember when the D or 5D 5D2 came out. I think that would have been 2004 2005 to 2007. But anyway, that would have been way too expensive to have gotten. And so I got like a camcorder, which some of my first videos on YouTube were done using that. And you could, if you go back to like the first one or two, you'll see it just looks like a camera quality like this stuck right up next to my gear. And I kept thinking, like, how do I get like that small depth of field? Because I could do it on that camera sometimes, but it didn't have I didn't have manual control over all the settings.
okay.
So I could never actually, and
Yeah.
back then I thought like, oh, the wider the angle, the better I can see everything. Whereas I probably, had I zoomed in and been further away, I would have gotten that depth of field that I would have wanted.
Yeah.
So, man, yeah, I'm kind of skipping around, but that was kind of college era. And then outside of college, one of my friends and I were going to start filming weddings, and getting into that sort of like, oh, we're gonna film weddings, and I think we actually did, and that did not go over well. We started our own website, and I don't know how much we charged the people, and I'm glad I have no idea who they are, because I'd feel terrible. I remember feeling terrible when we gave them the final package because it was not good quality. We were just filming it. I don't think, we weren't doing any of the picture taking. So anyway, when we got all the footage back, I started writing some like piano things on GarageBand. And at that point, suddenly I was like, well, wait, what if I put like beats behind that? And actually, that's my first album. So it's Anatomy
So you were
of Emotion.
scoring the footage of the
wedding? I
wedding?
was scoring the footage of the wedding with like piano stuff that I just thought sounded nice. And then just one morning I got really bored with it and put drum beats on it, like, kind of actually like placed all the notes. I didn't like take like actual, like, what are they called, like loops and stuff. I didn't
whatever.
I never liked loops. I still don't like them. I would never use them. I'm sure, like, I kind of wonder if that's how. So Square Pusher has this song theme from Ernest Borgnine, and that's like my favorite track of all time. Do you know that song?
I'm not familiar enough with Square Pusher to be able to pick one from the next.
Well, me either. That's the only song I think I really know, but I
Okay.
love that song so much. And he must have like, it must be like a drum loop that he like hits the notes to like kind of make them chopped up, and it's just, I love it, but I just don't do it. I don't know, I don't have the capacity or time to manage that. So yeah, so that actually started my journey, like, of using GarageBand, and I was making all this stuff with just piano. So if you hear that first album, that's all. I have some guitar stuff in there too, but it was mainly just like that. And anyway, so I had like, what I was using was an M Audio 49 key, like just junky keyboard to like input the notes. And then my cats knocked it off of its stand and broke it. And of course, at that point I was like, well, so that was 2007, I think, or no, I'm sorry, that was way later. So 2010 or 11, they broke it. And I
So
had to
you
go
were
buy a
still
new
using
one.
GarageBand on a Mac Mini at that point?
I think at that point I had a MacBook. So the white ones, the junky white ones. So at that point I had a MacBook. Or no, I think I upgraded to a MacBook Pro by that point because I was heavily into World of Warcraft.
So it was the black one?
No, it wasn't black. No, they had the Pro. There was like a silver one.
Okay, so that was the aluminum one by that time.
Yeah, I like kind of splurged and got like a nice aluminum one.
But you didn't look at Logic at that point. You were still with GarageBand.
I was still with GarageBand. Yeah, I did buy Logic, but then I was having a lot of trouble with not with Logic, but I was having a lot of trouble. I think like the Logic 10 came out, and I had just like bought 9, and it was like, well, sorry, you have to pay to upgrade it, and I just didn't want to do that. And then I use a Windows computer as well, or PC, and that one, Logic's not cross compatible. So I'm actually like, I had a lot of trouble converting over, and I was like, now in the future, everything I use, I want to have it be cross compatible. So if I switch, I'm not like totally out of luck. And
Yeah,
so
I went
now
through the
like,
same process.
so now I use Reaper now for my
Okay.
audio. I just love it because I don't do anything other than record, just the individual audio tracks. So going back to like my cats destroying that
Yeah.
thing, that keyboard. I went to Guitar Center in Roseville, which is like just I don't know, 5 miles north of me. And suddenly I was introduced to synthesizers. I can't believe I made it that far. The only thing I knew about um, a Moog, uh, because Weezer used one.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why I did that with Weezer. Weezer used one, and it actually turns out that they didn't use one with their Pinkerton album. If you're familiar with it, they had like that's their second album, and they had like a lot of like lead sort of sounds from a
Okay.
synthesizer, and that was all I knew of synthesizers was that, and then that like probably Michael Jackson and Madonna music was made with them, and I just thought they were those things from the 80s. And of
Yeah.
course, so then I went to Guitar Center and I saw the Microkorg, just the regular one. And I was like, this thing looks cool and sounds awesome. Like I'd put my fingers down and suddenly you'd hear this arpeggiation or
Yeah.
arpeggio. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And it's weird because I was using those kinds of things within GarageBand. You'd see it look, they had like an image of probably a Nord, a red, keyboard or a Moog. I think that's how you say it, Moog. Um, and so like I should have known, but I had no idea. So this opened my eyes up to this whole world. And of course I didn't buy it. I did what I always do, which is completely overanalyze everything in the world. And so I went home and spent the next like year researching things and eventually ended up with, and of course, no, I'll get there. So I got the R3, the Korg R3 for some reason, even though that thing was actually really ugly. That
Now
was
is
my
is
first
that a
purchase.
an arranger? Like it does
No, no,
everything?
no, that's a synthesizer. It's like the little brother to the Radius.
Oh, okay.
Have
So
you had
that's
the Radius?
I had the MS-2000.
Oh, okay.
So is it somewhere
Yeah.
between the MS-2000 and the Radius?
Well, it's the identical like sound processing as the Radius.
Okay.
So it's like the newer version. I forget what it's called. MMT. I think, I don't know, some junk technology name they call it to sound hip.
Yeah.
Um, and so I got that, and then I was like, oh well, I should have gotten the Radius, and so this like took me on a journey that like totally doesn't relate to music, but then I was like, okay, well I'm gonna sell this R3, and like I threw it on Craigslist where I'd been throwing like computers and stuff, and that like somebody was like, oh, I'll pay this much, and it was like I think more than I spent, and I was like, oh my God, I can make money off of this stuff, and that was the descent into hell. So like I could get
Yeah.
there, but basically my music started to diverge into there's the music production and then there's the synthesizer section. There's almost like unrelated things in my life. So the thing after the Radius, I realized like, well, I can't really. I wanted to start getting actual instruments so that I could play the stuff live, because I was like, well, nobody's going to want to watch me push play on my computer, which turns out to be not true. It seems like people love watching somebody push play on their
You can
computer,
make a
and then
living
like they
pushing
just hop
play. Yep.
around with
Yep.
like fake sliders and stuff. I don't know, that whatever people want to do, it's great by me. People are entertained by it. So then I got all this stuff, or then I was like, okay, I need something that actually like helps me write music. And instead of getting some sort of composing type thing, like I don't know, what was it? What are they called? I can't think of because I don't have any. The type
Is it
of,
like software
no, the
that
keyboards that like
Oh, I think they're
arrangers
called
and
arrangers, but I
yeah,
don't know the names. Like I think the Korg Triton is one that comes to mind that's pretty
yeah. So
popular, and
something like that.
Roland
Like
and
I
Yamaha and
probably should have gotten that.
everybody's got one.
But then I kind of figured nobody's gonna like really want to watch me push play on that, because as you know, I actually am very unskilled at playing keyboard. The only way that I can play this stuff is if I sit there for hours, kind of putting in all the notes that I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that those sounded good, but how does it, all relate to each other? And so like I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I can't do that live. So what I need to do is have something where I can twist knobs and do kind of fun stuff like that. So I ended up getting the Spectralis too. So I don't know if you've seen any of my videos with that, but like
Oh yeah.
that thing helped me start writing electronic music the way that I think like I write it now. So that was kind of the start. So I got that in 2012, and that was my journey into stopping playing World of Warcraft, which was great because that was a huge waste of my time. Like I was, I don't know. Did you ever play that?
I somehow I missed the whole MMO. I mean, I tried a few, but I just
Yeah,
that's a whole other conversation, but I'll just say no.
I would play those things and like and it was fun when I was exploring this new world. But then it got into, well, you need to be raiding, to get the better gear. And then I
Yeah.
started raiding, and then I started joining a guild. And
Yeah.
then it was like every Tuesday night I was doing this. And eventually I was in there and I would be like tabbing out to look up new synthesizers. It's like, well, do I want the Spectralis or do I want the machine drum? And then eventually it was like April of 2012. I was like, I think 2012. Yeah, I was like, I'm out, I'm done, and I quit. So that was good. It just traded one addiction for another is what happened, because then I started buying things, and then I started being like, well, I could sell them and make money. And of course, now what I do is I buy them, being like, well, I don't, this might go up in price, and I better get it now before it before, like now I can't get a Juno. I'm not like last
Yeah.
November I was going to buy a Juno 6 for 1,500, and this guy I was friends with, I'm not anymore, but he was like, oh, I'd never spend 1,500 on one. Now they're like 2,500. And it's funny because I actually don't care. Like I don't think, I had a Juno 106. I got one in 2012. Was it 2011? Oh my God. Yeah. I think all this stuff started in 2011. That's when I stopped playing that game. So in 2011, I got a Juno 106. It was actually the HS60, and I had an Oberheim Matrix 1000, and I was like, that thing sounds way better than this 106, and so I sold it. At the time, the thing was like the they didn't have the voice chip thing figured out. I knew it was a
Mm.
problem or could be, but like I didn't know that there was like the acetone fix, but it was like, well, it might not actually work. It might work for a few years. And I was like, well, I don't want this thing sitting around ticking time bombs. So I sold it for 350, and I was like, that's awesome. And of course
Yeah.
now they're worth that one in particular is like worth 2,500. And it's funny, I didn't like the sound. And then I borrowed a friend's Juno 60, and I kind of didn't really like the sound either. I don't know, but yet I still want one. So that's like the totally other side. So my music, I started expanding, and I feel like my sounds expand, like how I write music totally changes. So, I got like the Torres Squid,
Hmm.
and like I write totally different stuff with that than
Oh
I'd
yeah.
write with my RS 7000, or that I'd write with my Spectralis or my mono machines. And I posted that video recently of the Electron analog keys and the Korg ESX, and those are kind of like what some of my favorite things, and it's what I used to
Yeah.
perform with.
Yeah.
And I love the analog keys, or the analog 4 is fine, but the keys, like it's really nice to have it all embedded, so you can hold a note and press a chord, go
Yeah.
here. It doesn't let you do random, like the notes all have to go in order, and that kind of
Mm.
sucks that you can't randomize. Like maybe you can randomize the order, but I don't know, whatever. I'm not going to go into the technical, but yeah, so I find like all this stuff does different things, so it's always hard to get rid of them because they're all so different and interesting. So yeah, I mean that kind of like brings me up to the speed. Now I'm starting to write stuff with this Rhodes piano that I got. It's really a fun pair, having the Prophet on top of the Rhodes. And I don't know if you've used a Rhodes, but I love how that thing plays. It's just kind of, you know, I can't play piano at night because my wife goes to bed at 9 p.m. My daughter's in bed at 7:30 to 8. You know, we're expecting another one, and like I can never play the acoustic piano that we bought. So I I bought like a MIDI controller. It was the Korg D1, and I thought I would play it, but I don't. But this thing, like, you know, it's so fun to play. Um,
Is that hammer action?
yeah,
And can you
yeah,
plug headphones into it?
yeah. So it's got like I actually upgraded the output of it. So it's, you know, it's basically like, in my opinion, it's like the electric guitar of pianos.
So it's
Um,
that classic electric piano sound. So
yeah,
I'm not very
yeah,
familiar except from, shows and movies and stuff.
yeah. And if we were hooked up to my mixer, I'd turn it on and play it for you. I mean, put on my I can put on my speakers and you can just kind of hear.
Hey, give it a whirl.
Um, I was
So you
charging.
you picked that up recently then?
I picked that up in March. Yeah.
Okay.
One of my friends brought it up. Um, I don't know. Oh, yeah, I'll have to turn up the audio. But
Yeah,
that's
I can
like
hear something.
basically. I don't know if you can hear that, but
It's pretty quiet, but I can tell it works.
yeah. So that thing's kind of been. I've got to turn the audio down on that. That's kind of been one of the fun things for me to do is write it, like playing like the, the the roads and then kind of doing like a lead on top of it. Again, I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I don't have the skills. I just have fun. Um, I always think like if I spent half of my energy that I spend on looking up new gear to buy on learning music theory and like learning how to play piano, I would be a much better musician. But instead, I am just who I am.
I
You know.
I lean toward the direction that you're going. So, but I wanted to ask. So, at no point have you had any musical training at all? You've always just kind of did what
Um,
you wanted to do. It sounds like.
that's not. I mean, mostly. Um, in high school, I was actually in like sixth and seventh grade. I played trumpet, and I hated that. I hated the smell. Like I hated the
Oh,
way. I don't know if you played it, but like it hurt my lips. I didn't like it. And then in seventh or eighth grade, I started playing I think bass guitar. And so I was in jazz bands, jazz combos, playing bass
okay.
guitar. And I'd have the music in front of me. I had no idea what it was. Like I couldn't read it. So I would just fake it. So I would ask my friend, I'd be like, hey, can you play that first note? And they'd hit the first note and I'd find it. And then I'd go, okay, I could just make stuff up that's relative to that. Like, go, okay, well, that seems like where I should be going. And that was the only way I'd play that. And then later in high school, our band director got like a sexual harassment charge against him, and uh, he was fired. And
Wow.
he was like, I mean, he was really, aside from that, which is not like you can really put it aside. He really got me motivated to play music, and he was like actually a huge inspiration for me. So it was really disappointing that all of that happened.
Yeah.
Not, you know, disappointing that he did that, or and so like that. So then this like military guy came in, and the next year, and I was playing for him, but like we'd have to actually go into when we were uh, during what's it called what's the thing that people homecoming. So during homecoming, we'd have to play, and it was like, well, I have a bass guitar and band. Like, what do you want me to do? And so like previous years I'd use like whatever that the bass drum that you'd like hit on the sides with
Yep.
mallets.
Yep.
And I remember one time I was hitting them so hard and we were going, and I hit the mallet and it went flying off in the direction. And like during our performance, and I had to like run and get it. And then this next year when he was there, he had me do the cowbell, and I just was banging on that like during the performances, like our practices. And then he was like, Mike, come here. He calls me up to front of everyone. He's like, I think this year you can sit this one out. And I didn't have to
Oh,
do it. And I was like, thank God. But yeah, there was too much cowbell
I
apparently.
was like, I didn't know that was possible, but
It was.
we did it.
I should have gone into cowbell. Like,
Yeah,
I bet I'd be like, in some New York symphony right now, just because of my cowbell
professional
skills.
cowbeller.
They exist, I'm sure. And I am one of them. It's just you don't know it yet. So take a few more years, and I'll be a cowbell guru. So where was I going? Where were we going with this?
So that was your band history. Sound like
Oh yeah, you were asking about my history. So no, I never back then I didn't have any like lessons. And then in college, I took vocal lessons because I did want to like improve my singing, and it really helped. Like there's a very clear difference between my
mm,
earlier stuff and my later stuff. Of course, nobody knows because I never released it. Um, but yeah, that's then more recently, probably around 2010, I started taking piano lessons, and the woman that I did them from, I love her. She's a great person, but I never felt like I was learning. I was learning how to play songs, but see, I'm like I can play jazz stuff, so I could play like Vince Guaraldi stuff, but she couldn't. She couldn't play what I could
mm.
play. Like I don't know if you know Peanuts, the music, like the music from Charlie Brown type stuff.
I've watched plenty of
But
Charlie
like
Brown.
yeah, Vince Guaraldi wrote all that stuff, and he's just like my favorite. Him and Bill Evans, yeah, both of them were just like fantastic. And I could play this stuff. Like I was really good. Like once I learned something, I can just like play it, and as long as I don't think about it. But she couldn't do any of that. And then like I was sitting there, and I was like, well, I want to learn more about music theory, and I just never really felt like I was getting that. Maybe it's sort of like the way. In the Karate Kid where he was like learning to wax on and off. Like it was unrelated, but it eventually helped him. And maybe that's what she was going for, but like I didn't see that. So I eventually stopped taking lessons. I mean, she moved away, like further away, and it was harder. And so I just stopped. And and so that was probably the most formal I've gotten. When I try and read music, so like when I play piano and I try to read that music, it takes me like an hour to read like one bar of music because I want to memorize it, and then of course I'm sitting there like, uh, uh, eh, every good boy does fine or whatever, and like then the bass scale, like I don't even like, I made up my own acronym that I can't even say on here because it uses swear words, but like I don't know what it is, and so yeah, I have no formal theory. That's my long-winded answer to
Yeah,
your
yeah.
question.
So you did compose. You did some composing work. How did that come about? Given
Yeah.
like, how did you make the connections to make that happen? I don't know how normal
Good. That's a
composers get work. It's like I'd love to be able to do that, but I assume
Oh,
you
me
have to
too.
know
Yeah.
somebody who knows somebody or whatever.
Yeah. I had to know somebody, and I did know somebody. And the way this all worked out was when I was in college, I was an RA. So it's actually called a CA, so collegiate advisor or something. Basically, college was too expensive, so um, I was like a CA, and like you do the rounds and do all the stuff and for community building, and I was terrible at it and did it for 2 years. So I feel bad for everyone who was involved in that. And but I met somebody in one of the halls that I was in charge of, and he was going into like cinematography, and so he and I were kind of connected, and then after college, I kind of lived in this place with another friend who I did the wedding stuff for, and then he was got engaged, and his girlfriend was going to move in with him, so I needed to find somewhere else to live. And the guy, I ended up moving in with him, and I lived there at this place that was a disgusting pit for like, I don't know, 7+ years. I mean, there was
Wow.
actual standing sewage in the basement. like basically underneath my room. So where a lot of my stuff is recorded from back then, before 2014, it was in this disgusting house that I'm nervous for whatever I'm going to get throughout the rest of my life because of it.
You
But I
probably
lived
have a
with him.
really good immune system.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what standing sewage does for people, but probably not great. And so he had a friend, this girl that was at still in college, and she was doing like her like her not thesis, but whatever it is, her college project, and um, it was with just at the University of Minnesota, and he was like, oh, she needs somebody to like do music for her, so
Mm.
I did the music for her, and then actually outside of, and I did it for free. I was just like, hey, yeah, I'd love to help. Like, I'd love to get my music and stuff. And I still do that. Like, people ask me, I'd love to love to help them. I like, what do I have a full-time job. I don't need money. I'd rather like do stuff and help people and have fun with it. And so she ended up finishing up. And then afterwards, she got a job working at Weather Underground. And it's like this website for weather stuff. And she got them to basically put me on doing the music for their clips. So I would do like 2-minute clips here and there for them where I just make music. They'd be like, okay, we want something like this. And I would just do it. And then eventually they wrote, they were going to do a documentary called Dead Heat, which there it is up online. Like if you go to YouTube, you could find Dead Heat. And so I did the music, and I actually want to like release the soundtrack. I haven't. I don't know. It'd take me 2 minutes to export everything and be done with it, but I haven't done it. So with that, that actually relates to your heat wave. We were kind of talking before the start how, they basically discovered that I forget where it was previously, like the record, but it was in like, I think in Africa, but there was like a
Mm.
civil war going on at the time. And they were like, well, the readings probably weren't accurate. And they found that like the most accurate reading was in Death Valley in the US. And so that kind of overturned that in the 1900s. And I mean, I bet by now it's been broken, but
Yeah,
so,
I'm
so
certain it's
yeah,
been broken.
yeah, I think it was 134 was the highest temperature that
It may
was
have broken
recorded
this
at that
last
point.
week, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna keep hitting that record. So that's like how I got it, was like just working with her, and she was really motivated. The thing that kind of stinks is that she eventually like wanted to start a family. I mean, it doesn't stink. I get it. My daughter is everything and way more important than anything else I'm doing. So I totally get it. I do. But it's unfortunate because now I have no outlet for that kind of thing. I
Mm.
just do my own
Yeah.
stuff, randomly, and even less. I feel like it doesn't happen as often now as it used to, where people used to say, "Hey, I'd like to use this for a clip. Can I use it?" And it was like, "Yeah." No, I don't feel like that really happens now. It's interesting. A few weeks ago, somebody had reached out to me to do a live show, live stream show for them, and of course my practice run on YouTube was a complete disaster because my mixer's junk, and then of course it would have been a disaster tonight as well for the same reasons, but now I'm on a different computer. Um, but yeah, now like I mean, I think you're friends with somebody that I know from Minneapolis, so maybe that's how you connected with me anyway. The S Rabbit.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I think that's how what he'd go by on YouTube. And he's doing some phenomenal work with those Junos. And he has me kind of doing the same kind of stuff with my gear to test, and I send him audio snippets for him. So yeah, that's kind of that's how I got into like getting documentaries. Oh, I also did with my friend who I lived with. We would do 24 and 48-hour film festivals,
Mm.
and I actually won the musical score for like 2 or 3 years in a row. So that was kind of cool, at least like in Minneapolis. I don't, because none of our stuff won to go beyond that.
Oh, okay.
So that was really cool. That was back in 2007 and 8, and that was like just such a joy in my life was
So what
playing
were you using to compose those film festival tracks that got you in, win those awards or titles or
GarageBand.
whatever? That was just
Yeah, yeah,
stock
because I did.
instruments in GarageBand?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, in my Spectralis, I have some of those stock instruments like the piano and stuff. And well, actually, no, the piano in that is made by Jörg Schaff, the guy who developed it. Um, yeah, that's kind of that's how I made the music, because most of it wasn't like electronic music. It was, I'd create like really somber piano pieces. That's like what I love to do.
Yeah.
I think if I could have my piano down here and could just write like the most depressing, sad stuff on the piano, I'd do it. But my piano is actually not great either. The stuff I have in my studio is like much nicer, but like I got that piano for $500, like delivered to my house. So,
That's amazing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it works.
it does. I actually kind of like, it's like I think people love things that are perfect, and it's annoying because in my studio, I want everything to be perfect, but yet it's like the instruments that are not perfect. It's not a grand piano. It's just this. It's a Sojin. It's like some South Korean um, thing that's like not great, but I love it. Hang on, I can tell that like one of my. I'm gonna take that out. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha. Just
Good.
fine.
I'm gonna charge. I'm gonna charge the one. Hang on. I'm gonna charge it and make sure it's up to speed. And
Have you been able to record that upright? It's an upright, I assume, the piano that you have.
it is. Yeah, it's a small upright piano. No, I haven't recorded it because I don't have a good. I don't have like a portable system to
Hmm.
record anything. And like I've thought about them. There's like Zoom, Tascam makes them, and then there's also CME. I think has one. But like one of my friends has that, and he was like, "Well, it's just they're forced to be panned left and right." I just haven't found something that's
Oh,
worthwhile. And then it's like, well, what I just have no idea what I want to use. It's like, well, do I want to get my nice microphones up there, or do I want to use the ones that are just there? Sometimes I think it'd be better to record it with worse quality and get it recorded than not get it recorded. Like actually, one I wrote a song a long time ago called "Never Ends," and I used the piano from my parents' house when I was young. I wrote that when I was 17, and it's a rock track. And like that piano sounded so decrepit, but like I think back to it and I still think it sounds like really good. You know, it, I love how bad it sounds. And it's almost like I mimic that with the stuff that I write now. I
hmm.
try and It's like I try and take nice things and make them sound bad. Actually, I wrote something on my D50 recently, and everyone was like, "Well, a lot of people said that's way too out of tune," and it's like, "Well, that's the way I like it." Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that piano taught me a lot. That having things be perfect. And I feel like a lot of people feel the same way about their synthesizers. It's like, well, the old ones had so many flaws that made them good. Um, so, kind of how a
Yeah.
lot of things are, I think, art and everything else. And, sometimes
Oh,
just the rough edges make things interesting.
you're speaking to the choir. That's half the inspiration to the name of my project that I'm working under for this channel,
Uh,
Imperfect.
yeah, imperfect, right. I tend to follow your other channel a lot more, and I don't know why. I don't know if I should be following both. Um,
No
so
pressure. It's all good either way.
I love that stuff. And like you're like making, are you making a video game or something? Or is that, no, that might,
That's slowly in progress. I've
yeah.
I realized it takes a lot of time, and I'm like, okay, if I put too much time into that, I'm not gonna do anything else, and I'm not gonna have the potential to make any sort of income at all, which I try to justify the amount I spend in here that it's working toward some potential of income.
So,
So
I
I've
guess
been
that's my
spending time
question
doing
to my question
that's
to
why I
you is
switched
like
to
how
do
you
it.
make money. What, do you make money off of this, like your music? Because I don't make anything off of it.
It's a very small amount, but I have had some somewhat success with doing the two. So I spent less time on the game itself, but I did two collections of music specifically for people to put in their own games, and I put them up on Epic Game Store, or I can't remember. I think it's the Epic Game Store where they sell game assets, everything from 3D art to scripting to anything you'd want to put in a game.
So
You can
you're
put
telling
music
me
up
I could
there.
upload my music and people could use it for video games?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I feel
I
like I
mean,
should get
you
into
just
that.
it can't be copyrighted, and they have a pretty stringent review process. It actually encouraged me. They don't just let anybody do it, so it has to adhere to certain standards, which were a hassle until I figured out what I was doing.
Mm.
Um, but I've been able to actually see reasonable income that isn't discouraging from doing those. So I've kind of shifted to I've got more of those that I want to do, and I'm going to start really soon on another project like that. But I'd love to compose game music, and this is the closest thing I've been able to do so far, and
That's really cool.
it's a
I
lot
would
of
love to
fun.
do the
I
same
love it.
thing. So you can't it's not so all my stuff when I like release it ends up being copyrighted, at least I think. I mean, I don't go I haven't since like 2002 like actually sent my stuff to the Library of
Mm.
Congress. I
Yep.
should probably do that. I can't even log in. I've been spending like the last month being like, well, how can I log in? Because you said after 90 days of inactivity, you killed my account. And they're like, well, you'll try now. And then nothing goes through. And they're like, we'll call our office. And it's like, yeah, I bet I'm really going to get through to somebody there. But like, um, yeah, so my stuff's not actually like copyrighted per se sometimes, but whatever, I'm not like making anything off of it anyway. So I guess if somebody's gonna, whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, I've done that a few times. I think the last one I sent to Library of Congress was maybe 2014. But anymore, if I'm going to distribute it beyond Bandcamp, um, it somehow gets copyrighted through CD Baby, because I use them to distribute to, if I want to distribute, then it'd be Spotify and Apple's iTunes Store,
Yeah.
and they even I think distribute to YouTube, but they end up assigning a special code to every track. So effectively, it's copyrighted, and then anytime somebody plays it online to something that keeps track, you get point zero 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 zero
Yeah.
zero 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 1 cents. And
Yeah. That's how I get that too.
but at least
I've,
it's copyrighted
well, I don't know that it's copyrighted. There's like
somehow.
they'll find it and like pay you. But like if somebody wrote their own track that was similar or stole your stuff, I suppose,
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm not sure that means
Yeah,
like whether you would get it in court to win that. I don't know. Um, it's kind of like yeah, it's a huge mess, and I'm just here to write music and have fun doing it. So like I don't know. Yeah, I released my stuff on CD Baby. I was looking at DistroKid as well, but like it's kind of rubbed me the wrong way. It was like, I don't know if you've looked into that, but it's kind of expensive to do it through CD Baby. But on the opposite side, it seems more clear, and it's like once you upload it, it's up for good. DistroKid is like
yeah,
until your bank account goes bad, and you can like have it go for life, but then it's just like weird language that There's just too much for me. So I'm gonna keep CD Baby up. Most of my all my stuff, like at least up to date, is like on um, Bandcamp, and then later I end up like uploading it through CD Baby when I feel like spending the money. But
Yeah.
like I have, I think 5 to 7 albums worth of stuff I just haven't put up because I have too much fun writing the music, but I never have fun like compiling it and putting it into a complete package.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic, so you've got your YouTube channel, and that's just called Midera,
Yeah, midera, whatever.
and you're on SoundCloud as well, I assume.
No,
Or
it costs $150 a year, and like I don't get too many
oh, do
people.
you want to upload more stuff? Is because I've never paid anything on SoundCloud.
Yeah, right. I
I
mean,
just
if
use the
you
free
only want
one, but
to
it's fairly limited.
it's super limited. I like having it, but you know, it's like I'll spend $150 a year to have all my stuff there for like one person to like something and then walk away.
Yeah.
And you know, it didn't feel like it was doing a whole lot for me. I mean, I've considered having my YouTube channel monetized, not because I want money, but because it would just pay to keep keep my internet presence there. Because you know, now I paid for 3 years of having my website, which is like midera/artist.com. You know, I paid for 3 years for that to be up. You know, and it's not. I thought it was simple, but you know, first you have to pay for your domain, and then you
Yeah.
have to like pay the hosting site. So like I think I went through Google Domains, but you know, uh, it's not free. It's not free to me, and so I don't know. I spent like over 100 on that, and I know on when I was monetizing my stuff, it was like I got like $20 a month, which wasn't very much, but like that would probably be enough to cover some simple things. I just
Yeah.
hate doing it
Yeah.
because like yeah, I want people to enjoy my music, and I don't want them to have to like see some stupid ad for like you know masterclass things or other you know I know if you're on your computer it's fine, you probably have an ad blocker, but you know most people don't. I mean I don't know about it on my iPhone. So like I just I now a lot of my stuff now that it's on CD Baby and I like put it to like collect money, it's gonna like automatically do that for those tracks, which kind of
Mm.
stinks, but doesn't matter. You know, most of those songs, people don't care about that. I don't find a lot of people really listen to my music. I That's the sad part is like my YouTube page seems or my YouTube channel seems very much like I've attracted a lot of people who want to just see the gear. You know, I can't tell you the number of times, and I mean, it's a compliment. Number of times people say, "Oh, hey, I bought that instrument because of this," but it's not really often that people are like, "Well, I bought your music because of your music." It's that they bought the gear. You know, I guess I'm to blame because I think the gear entices people to come to my videos. So like I just had a song recent or a video recently where it was the Future Sonus Parva, and the thumbnail is like of a still shot from like other things. So the video like no you know it's really done poorly because it doesn't have a thumbnail that has like gear on it,
Okay.
and I find that to be that's always the case. And actually, like my favorite music is like it performs the worst, um, and I don't know why that is. And I guess I don't know if it's YouTube looks at the thumbnail and they go, "Well, that looks terrible," and nobody wants to watch it. I mean, some stuff like my MC303 tracks like did phenomenally well. I don't know why, but they did, and um, I'm happy about that. And actually, when I had those out that album for free, it was just downloaded all the time. And then I was like, I feel like I should earn something for like what I put together. And I think I put it to like $5, $7, and it just stopped. Nobody downloaded it anymore. I get it. Everyone wants everything for free, and my all my music's on YouTube for free, so people can listen to it there whenever they want. Um, I'm getting really depressing, I guess, but it's just like the
Uh,
nature of YouTube.
yeah.
I have I don't know how many, 7 to 8 thousand subscribers, and but only get like 300 views per video. It just gets so dilute, and I think worse about YouTube is that it's turned into a product placement place. So if you type in so if you type in access virus TI, you might actually come up with one of my videos first, because that's all like, they're not doing production things anymore. But
Yeah.
like everything that comes out, if I search for it, most of it's just the stuff that's by like the 3 or 4 big names, sending things out. And that I know that they put in a lot of effort, and it's great stuff, but it's not actually really what I want to see. I want to see people using the gear. Actually, so like, not sure I want to talk about it.
I think
I was
we've
going to
had
talk about a
rants
product, and then I
before.
was like, nah, better. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. We won't name any names, but I think you
But
and I
well,
have had back and forth about this exact topic.
yeah, well, there's one thing that this isn't about an instrument in particular, but I see the like, I think it's Lupop, Lupop. How do you say his name?
I
I don't know. So him and some other big people, I watch their stuff and I really like it. And so there's no criticism against them, but it's always usually like by itself. It's that instrument by itself, and they show you what it can do, and I get that. That's great. But like for me, I kind of want to see people with it in their mess of a studio, their rat's nest of junk, and going, well, like, I want to conceptualize how it's working with all their other things. And that's just completely gone on YouTube. I mean, find it
yeah.
really hard to find that now. It's just, it's hard to discover new people.
There's a few channels. One that immediately comes to mind, I may be mispronouncing it, but there's a guy, Dennis Polik. I think he's German, but I've watched his channel for a couple of years, and he literally has a chair in the middle of shelves of synthesizers, and he'll do jams. Like he'll rehearse something, I think, and then he'll just do the whole thing live. It's like Berlin School style stuff, but he's usually got 6 synthesizers and a pedal or two, and a drum machine, and so there is kind of a small jam culture out there.
Yeah,
If that's what
except,
you're thinking of, but it depends if you enjoy jams or not. Not that's a little different than a
you
well
know,
composed piece with purpose behind it.
yeah, I don't know what I do. I'm not sure. I don't like using the word jam, just personally. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like I
that's
used
I'm the
to, and I
same
got
way.
made fun of for using the word. Like, I'd be like, "Hey, you want to come over and jam?" And like people, I don't know, somewhere along the line, somebody made fun of me for that, and I never said it again. Um, the interesting thing you were talking about, like the synthesizers, and it's really funny because I can't I can't dissociate, but disassociate my gear. Like, what I like the sound of is like, I think it's the gear, but it's actually the effects. I could basically probably do everything with just 1 or 2 things, and just have an awesome effects chain. And I don't know, either I can't realize it because I just want extra things because it's fun, or what. But yeah, it's funny how much it's basically the cool part. The best part about the music is probably the effects doing it.
Mm,
You know, that's my experience. I think the gear is like inspiring, but usually it's when I connect it to external processing where I'm like, where things usually shine. The virus TI is like a different case. Like to me, it's all in there, But like my Prophet 10, I've got I've got the Strymon Dig and the Boss MD 500 attached to it
Are
by
you?
itself.
Did I probably mentioned the dig so many times you got tired of it and finally picked it up. Is that what happened?
No, I picked it up. I picked it up, and I don't know that we talked about it before I picked it up, but maybe. So I got it in March of 2020. So like early March. So that was when the
Because
pandemic, like
it was in a
it
lot of my
was.
videos, a lot of them.
Oh, okay. It was. So I got that a week before like lockdown, and I remember like meeting up with the guy, and we were both just like, I don't know. And yeah, I bought that from him and another pedal, the Tomcat Super Daydreamer. It was a really good deal, and I couldn't say no. So, and that thing is awesome. I love it, but at the same time, I'm starting to realize how much the El Capistan is so good
Hmm.
because it like just dirties things up.
Yeah.
Um, one of my most recent song, or a recent song, was Tides of the Mind, and that used my Poly 6 going through the El Cap, and I just loved how it the delays were dirty, and I wish the Strymon the dig could do that, but it doesn't really
Yeah, it's
do it
designed as
justice.
a real ultra clean, buttery digital delay, whereas the El Cap
Yeah,
is going for that tape delay sound where every time the delay happens, it's a little less clear and defined and maybe loses some low end. I think you can even filter the low end on the El Cap. I haven't used one in a while, but I think there's some options there.
yeah. My only real complaint about the El Caps is that why couldn't they put on the front their secondary features? I hate that. I cannot
Yeah.
figure it out. I cannot remember them.
I always just
And
set it and forget it because like I'd have to have the manual there and spend a half hour messing with it between every track. Or like I'm not going to do that. I'll just put them where they sound decent and go.
like, who thought that was a good idea to like not mark the second? It's not hard. There's room.
Oh yeah,
There's totally room on them. And I don't know. I just think that was such an oversight. Or clearly somebody was like, well, that we should put them on there. And then someone in marketing was like, well, they're not going to look quite as nice, so don't. And that's what we have.
oh now
But
they
like
have the big giant green one that's like the El Cap on
the
steroids.
Volante or
Yeah,
whatever.
where I don't think maybe there is secondary on that,
There
but
are, yeah. I'm actually picking one up next weekend, I
okay.
think. So,
Yeah.
um, that's kind of what I like about the gear, as I like all the writing on it. It's just part of what makes it interesting, and gives it a neat aesthetic. All of it, yeah, all of them. Anything that has a bunch of writing on it, I like. Um, and like silk screen printing. I mean, I just love that stuff. It just looks
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'm very interested in aesthetics and
Well,
I've
yeah, and I
I've
love the
I've
videos you
lost a
you
few
shoot.
some gear just because the aesthetics I just couldn't deal with the aesthetics.
Yeah. Well, is that the System 8?
That's on the list. Yeah.
Man, that's on my list too. I think it's
It
such
sounds
an
so
ugly.
good.
It does. It sounds great, but you know what it misses is that it doesn't have stereo panning. And I don't know why they couldn't include that, at least for the System 8 portion.
Hmm.
I get it for all the plug outs because like why would they have it? They didn't in
Yeah.
the originals.
Yeah.
But like what possessed them to not have that in there? It frustrates me because that I use that a lot in all of my like a lot of my sounds. I just love
Hmm.
slow stereo panning.
Yeah.
Um and they just like they miss that. But yeah, the aesthetics of it. I know some people are into it, and actually when I do my videos, I end up like changing the green to like instead of goblin green to like mint green, and I'm like, wow,
Yep.
if this thing had been mint green, I would have really kind of liked it, but it's such a harsh looking thing. But also I don't like the membrane buttons. They're just
Hmm.
mushy buttons. And I like just nice strong switches or buttons that are on like the Profits or the Poly 6 or really any other gear. I don't know. I don't have too much gear that has that soft button thing on it. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, other
No,
than Roland stuff, I don't know that I've encountered those
it's just
styles because
cheap.
and the System One was the same way. And I'm trying to think of
And that was
the
even
like the
cheaper.
TR-8S probably had similar buttons to that.
I was looking at getting one of those. They seem interesting, but I have a machine drum and um, I don't know that it really contribute much. Um, it's funny, like with my Toria's Squid, my drum machine for that is my RS 7000. And
Mm.
it's, I've actually like, I love how it sounds. And everyone's like, people complain about the stock drums in there, but like, you can add so many different effects, like internally. And that thing, just like, I listen to those songs, like the Tides of the Mind, with just it's like one of my newest favorites. I love the drums. And so it's like, well, why would I get something else if what I have right now is like just really doing it for me? Um, so that thing is ugly. The RS 7000 is a very ugly instrument. So it's not very appealing to look at. It's huge, but I've just grown to like it so much. It's a shame that, yeah, aesthetics really play a role, but I mean, that's true of like a lot of things. We get our computers because we kind of like how they look. It's hard to kind of separate that.
Yeah, the modular, which you can't really see it on the
Yeah,
camera,
but I've
but
seen it in
yeah,
your videos.
I even have to arrange it or swap out modules if I like pick something up. And like, it's hard because I'm torn on one or two where it's like, it sounds fantastic and it looks hideous. What do I do? So it's
Yep.
like a smaller scale of the entire thing with synthesizers, except it's a rack and there's these little modules. And I mean, it's called Eurocrack for a reason.
I will not get into it. The closest thing that I've got is my Moog.
Moog.
God, I have to stop myself every time. Moog.
We all said
Moog. It's
Moog
Moog.
for decades, but it's Moog.
Moog. Yeah. I have to actually, my thought process is first I have to go, okay, what does a cow say? It says moo. Okay, it's not that. So I have to go Moog every time. So that's like, I get stopped, Moog. So my matriarch is the closest thing.
Mm.
And I actually never connect any of the modular things because, or, the whatever they're called,
Do you
uh,
have the colored
patch points.
version of that, or is it the black edition? I couldn't
Well, of course
remember.
I've got the colored version. Who Why do people want the black one? I don't get it. I love
I
I
swear
love the
we had this
multicolored.
conversation when you posted videos of it
We
too.
did, I'm sure. Some people just they're like, I hate that one. And I mean, okay, so I have like a mellow yellow car, so like a Beetle. So I guess I'm just not exactly an expert on colors, but I think it looks really cool. It's so. I mean, kind of doesn't mean a whole lot, but yeah, I like that one. I actually also like my Roland SH-101.
Hmm.
So I wrote a review on it, and I like it's gray. I kind of it's weird how sometimes things that like you think should be ugly look cool because they fit a certain design element. Like to
Yeah.
me, it like
Yeah.
reminds me of the Soviet Union in the 80s. I don't know why, it just does. And probably because like that's how all their buildings look from back then. When they built all sorts of just quick, cheap things, and
Some cement gray everything.
yeah. So like there's that, but like the System 8, it's also plastic. They're both plastic, but one just has a. I I'm not into design, so I can't tell you why I like something and I don't like another.
I
It does
well,
sound.
yeah. I thought well, the one saving grace I found on the System 8 was you can turn the LEDs off entirely if you want to.
No, you
But then
can't
if
though,
you're
because
using
like the buttons
I
are still active. They're
oh
still green.
yeah, I don't know that you can turn the buttons off, but like the glow, as I
Yeah.
recall, you could at the time the firmware they had it so you could turn the glow off, which I'd turn it down really low. But then when you're using one of the plug outs, you don't have that added layer of certainty where the things that you can use are still lit
Yeah.
up, which is
You
I
know,
really like that idea.
it's funny. A lot of times, like we look for gear that's like what you see is what you get. Oh, great! There's a spider running around on my basement. I'm gonna let it live. Um, it's like what you see is what you get, and yet I find that I actually almost work better with an interface that isn't entirely like that because like my AN1X, right? So I'm not saying I'm going to keep this forever, but it's just got like those 8 knobs and then like the buttons. But like my hand is just in one spot. And it's just
Yeah.
like, okay, I do that and I do that and I do that. Whereas like I find like on the System 8 and actually even the Prophet 10, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm way up here and oh, I need to go way over here. And it's interesting how much we seek out things like that. And yet like that doesn't mean that they're the best.
Is that how the interface on the analog keys is? Is it kind of like that? As if because I've had the analog for the rack
It's the
mount one,
same.
and it's like a grid of knobs.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I don't like that there are 5 knobs. I prefer their older style with 4. Um, but I get why they have it. But I like how that works. I just menus don't matter to me. I
Hmm.
don't know
Yeah.
why they throw people off so much. I get it in the instance of like if you're doing a live show and you want to like adjust something, and it can be particularly hard to do so because it's buried somewhere maybe. Um, so I do understand that that can be a problem. Like actually, my Radical Technologies accelerator can kind of have problems like that where like it takes me a bit because the value I want is like nested somewhere. Um, so like I get that, but that to me it's like really interesting how everyone seems, at least in this day and age, they want like what you see is what you get, or 1 knob per function, and I don't find that to be a huge factor. Like it annoys me in that I seek it out, but then I find that I'm actually quickest with things that are not that. But it's sort of like ideals versus practical.
Yeah, and I can see the value in, and maybe there's a sharper learning curve when you do have menus to navigate, which in my view, if it's got one level deep menus and you press a button and you're a new menu, press another button, you're in a new menu. I'm totally fine with that. If I've got to press the button 2 or 3 times all the time just while making a patch, that gets a little tiresome. But I
Yeah.
can see with a lot of the equipment you use, I'm guessing, you know, maybe there was some growing pains when you first got it, but once you get it to where you don't have to think about it too much, it's like the menus just sort of disappear and you're just working away and having fun.
Yeah, that's like my Spectralis is a bit like that in that it was one of the first things I got and I had no idea anything about synthesis. So this thing just was so intriguing. I think I spent a year like reading the manual and like learning everything about it. But it's got some of its section for like the oscillators. It's got 27 pages and each
Oh
page
man.
has like most pages have sub menus, but I don't mind it. I like it. I There's nothing to me that's wrong with it. It's just, all it takes is having your brain map it out. And once it's mapped out, there's no issues.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it sounds like menus don't bother you at all. It's just a matter of learning your way around and
Yeah. And maybe like as I've gotten older, because that was 10 years ago. As I've gotten older, maybe I've gotten more reluctant to like, it kind of kills the joy a bit. Like I have the Yamaha SY77, and when I first got it, I really loved working with it, even if it was super deep like that. But now I've kind of gotten to the point where I have a lot of other gear where it doesn't feel quite as fun to work with.
yeah.
And And actually, even my Spectralis, now that I have the analog keys, I love how, so they work in a very similar way in that you push a button and then you can press your keys, and and it like kind of saves that at at that point. But like on the Spectralis, you can only do one note, so you can't actually do polyphonic recording that way. And so to me, like now that I know this workflow that just is amazing for me, it's hard to go and use other things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, um, what have you got coming up that you're working on that we can look forward to as far as your, I assume, midera work? Is that your primary focus these days?
it is, and I kind of wish it wasn't. So I'm like writing like a death metal type thing, and I should release a song on YouTube, but again, I didn't like I'd have to film me playing all of these things, and it would just take way too much. If I just released it, I guarantee you I'd have 200 views and that's it, and it would just die. Also, it doesn't fit my electronic music, so people might come by and go, well,
Yeah,
what
it'd
is
be
this?
totally
and
different from your other content on that channel.
and I think I've got enough, like I've got 5 to 10 people who'd be like, oh, this is cool, it's totally different. I mean, death metal in terms of instrumental, like there's not like screaming and other things, but like, and it's actually probably not like even death metal, it's just what I wanted to call it. It's
Yeah.
just junk. But like, so I have 5 tracks and I'm trying to like finish an album, but it's like when I'd
Mm.
release it, who's gonna see it? Like I have no way of like getting that visible. Because I have another electronic section of my music that isn't midera. It's Morrow Fair. And that was like my stuff where I would write, I'd use a guitar with like some synthesizer type stuff. And it was like, to me, very, very dark. And I think I almost have a completed album. I'd really like to release it, but now I'm not sure if I'll release it as midera under like the subtitle of Morrow Fair. Because how else, the only way, this is how I have visibility is through
Yeah.
my midera.
Yeah.
And so that's probably something I want to finish up. But I think the next thing I'm going to release is my Rhodes and Prophet like
Mm.
stuff, because I
Yeah.
have enough
That's,
tracks to like get it out and like not, it's pretty much done. I've made some mistakes in recording it because it was all like live improv. Um, but at the same time, maybe that's okay to have it be not perfect. I know Vince Guaraldi, like his Peanuts songs, like the the song everyone knows, it's Linus and Lucy. He made a mistake in that. I can hear it every time I listen to it. He like was playing and he missed the note, or he hit
mm.
2 notes or something. I
Yeah.
hear it. It's after like the loops once. I hear it every time, and I'm just like, man, why didn't they just re-record that? And the technology was way different back then in the 60s, I think, when that was recorded. So I get that it wasn't as easy as it is today. But so yeah, I might just keep them in because like it'd be too hard to do anything else. Now the other problem is like I think it would take way more than 70 minutes
Mm.
um, of time, and I don't know if that's like a big deal, but like I don't think CDs can handle that kind of information. I've never thought about it, but somebody more recently was like, "Oh, well, you can make something that's almost 72 minutes," and I was like, "Why is that important?" They're like, "Well, that's what goes on a CD." Um, so I don't know how that works.
Well, if unless you're releasing it to CD, it's not going to
No, I
matter.
usually don't. Yeah, yeah.
But
So
yeah, that was,
that's the next thing that's on the horizon is probably that, and then what I should really do is stop putting stuff out for a while and start compiling my music
mm.
and like putting them into releases and spending the money to get it up on iTunes and other places.
Well, yeah. Whatever you do, I'll look forward to listening to it, and I'm sure a lot of other people will enjoy it as well. Um,
Yeah,
I've
thanks.
really learned a lot and got a lot of inspiration just from watching your channel over the years, and
Well,
we're
likewise.
we're kind of on similar journeys, and a lot of what you said resonates with me. So I'll get links from your various outlets to put in the description for this video.
Okay.
And I'd love to have you back on the show in the future. It sounds like we could have conversations about a long list of topics. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we could talk about one effects pedal for an hour. I love talking, but I feel that I did most of the talking here, so
No,
maybe
that's
next time we could bounce back and
that's
forth.
what we do on the first time anybody's on the show. Is we're trying to figure
Okay.
out what they're about and get into the history of what brought them right to where they're at, and focusing on
Yeah.
the artist. So
Okay. Well, great.
so I really enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your work with us and your history with us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
So this will be uploaded after the fact, but we'll look forward to talking to people in the comment section if they have any questions, and we'll see everybody soon enough. Bye for
Yeah.
now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Take care. It was really, really a pleasure. So I will talk to you later.